Welcome back to the Duel Alliance podcast with your host Alicia Solomon and myself, Megan Hines, where every week we talk the challenge. And once again, we're back to discuss the challenge All Stars for episode 5, where somebody got a hint of Kara's wrath and a little bit of comeuppance. And we get more of the toxic attraction between two exes. That's how I'm gonna leave that. Because I didn't want to touch on them exes last week, but we're gonna touch on that today because somebody has self awareness, but I also sense a hint of like narcissism that was brewing a little bit with the attention that she got. But we'll get into that. But to start the episode off, Brandon immediately was like, "I'm scared of Kara's wrath. Like I did this, but now it's a guy's day week." And I know I must be on the receiving end on whatever Kara is about to do to me, whether she wins or whether she has a hand in the vote. And lo and behold, she did. And I was like, well, it is what it is. It's a game move. We make game moves. You always get the reaction to it and an effect to it. So we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it, and we're going to continue to speak about it a little bit more once we get into the episode of what happened with Brandon. But I do think that, like I said, he kind of jumped out there a little bit with dismissing Kara and then realized, like, shit, I may need her going forward in the game, which is what my concern was with him just kind of being like, oh, I ain't spoken to you in 8 years. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But you are still playing a game with her now. Like 8 years doesn't matter at this point. Like what we talking about now. So that's where I kind of was like, he kind of bit himself in the foot a little bit.
Yeah, and then Leroy opened up about his own postpartum journey with the birth of Kingston and how he's sorry, how he's adjusting to now having a child and how he wanted to be better as a not only a man but as a father to his son at this point. This is like after Cam literally gave birth to Kingston and both of them came on the show. But him opening up about his thought process and journey and how that affected him, it's good to see because we don't really see that side of the pregnancy and postpartum journey for men often. So him opening up about that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they spoke about it. They went in detail. He kind of was able to get that out in terms of just awareness with the other cast, and he was cutting Adam's hair while doing it. And Adam obviously has kids, so he probably can understand some part of it, whether it's he saw his ex-wife, baby mama. I'm not really sure what that situation is, but whoever the children mama is, he probably saw her go through some part of postpartum as well because it's common in a lot of women. And the signs, they're typically not readable unless you know your partner. So I'm glad that Cam was so tapped in and was able to kind of see it, and they were able to have a discussion about it. And I think it's definitely interesting to see that dynamic of a man speaking about postpartum because it's not really spoken about. Like paternity leave is a thing, like fathers going on, FMLA, but speaking about the process of actually having to raise a child and how you're going to mentally get through that is a whole nother different topic. So I'm glad Leroy has gotten help, or is getting help still. I'm not sure what his timeline is with that because they just had another baby. But if he's still getting help, congrats to him in trying to better himself, not only for his life, but his children's life, because that's the most important part, is trying to break that habit and that seed that can trickle down to your kids when they grow up.
Yeah. And then we get into the toxic exes, which I call now toxic attraction. They're back in good graces with one another. And Nicole describes her whole situation as a roller coaster, which world doesn't like calling it that, but it is what it is at this point. And we see them wrestling, having a ball, having a key, um, and it looks like they're in a good space as people. but they haven't really spoken much about a lot. And I like how Flora was like, hey, you need to be upfront and really be about your actions. You can speak one way, but you have to back it up with action. And you haven't been doing that. And it's like, you're going to hurt that lady if you don't say anything.
Yeah, which I can appreciate. Shout out to Flora for being like the mom in the group, or like, someone who just seems level-headed on this kind of situation. But it's obviously what the case is with Nicole and Laurel. It's just like Laurel is seeing like green flags as red flags as green flags. Like she doesn't really know what's what. And Nicole, being someone who is, I guess, toxic in her own self, recognizes that she's toxic, but then also on the back end wants to reap the benefits of having someone's attention. It's just like, girl, get it together. And I'm glad that Flora clocked it and was like, all right, you're saying one thing, but you're doing something else. And it's just because you like attention. So you probably need to pay more attention to your own self rather than having her pay attention to you and give you all that time, because it's not necessary. And it really, I felt bad for Laurel, but then I didn't, because like I've been saying, Laurel is the type of person who can clock somebody else's situation but can't clock her own. And it's like, girl, you're falling back into the same habits and traps that you did before. You're crying like you changed your phone number, you did this, you did that, da da da. But now all of a sudden, because you're in a communal space with homegirl, you want to be up under her playing footsies. It's like, that's not how that works. You have to detach yourself. And we've seen it time and time with multiple couples who have broken up off the show and then came back on the show and have rekindled something, or whatever the case may be. So I think Laurel needs to get a grip and take her own advice, to be honest, and leave the situation alone with Nicole. And if she can't be in the same space with her, the house is big enough. You can go outside while she's inside, or, vice versa.
That reminds me of the tweet spree that Laurel went on after she was on the reunion for 39, and she literally like blasted Nicole on Twitter. And I was like, I think at this point now she's gotten a grip of her emotions and how to deal with Nicole. I don't know if she got a grip on it even after a certain other season, but I just know she knows how Nicole is, and she just cannot get a grip on how to move forward from Nicole. I think now at this point she does, given everything that's happened, not even just on the show, but afterwards, because I think as time goes on the season, they're gonna get back to a good point, and then after the show, shit went left. So it's just a never-ending cycle that Laurel just can't get out of unless she puts her foot down fully. But at this point, I know she did because after the show she did. Yeah. But also it's just funny they seeing Nicole's like, yeah, I know what I need to do, but you haven't done it. She did it eventually and set boundaries, but you are leading the city on. Take comedy for that. And in that conversation I did have later on, I was like, I like that you're setting boundaries, but it is a little bit not getting to the nitty gritty of everything because she didn't want to talk about the situations at all. I'm like, you still are not doing anything.
And she doesn't have to be honest. Like it's not up to, like, whatever process she needs to go to, whether or not she wants to be delusional and talk about it or not, that's up to her. But I think it's up to Laurel to recognize the signs and to see. And I'm not trying to just put everything onto Laurel, but when you're dealing with toxicity and a toxic person, you have to know how to maneuver your emotions in that situation. And Laurel got back in her feelings, back to the situation where she's drawn and being attracted and wanting that attention from her, and having that kind of dopamine release and not realizing that this person is still on that same type of time. Like they never changed at all. Like when they were not speaking with each other, when they were speaking with each other, the energy was still the same with Nicole. So I feel like Laurel going through that process needs to realize like, hey, she's the same person she was back then, now, and probably be for the rest of the time being, unless she decides to change. And if she's not giving you the signs like, hey, I want to talk about this, or break down anything that I said or did, or whatever, cool. She doesn't need to do that. You need to accept what the person is saying to you and being like, all right, bet. You're not gonna take accountability. You're not going to be responsible in the way that you treated me in your actions. Cool. What's my part in it? How did I aid in it? I stayed with you. I was with you. I was kicking with you. I allowed you to do X, Y, and Z. Let me move on. That is what Laurel needs to do because Nicole is obviously not going to do it. She never has done it. And she probably won't continue to do it as she continues to move forward.
Yep, and we're gonna leave that at that. We'll get more of Toxic Attraction later on in the season, per usual. NBC, Cam and Cara Maria try to hash things out because Cara was talking to Leroy about the situation that happened last week, and Lee was like, "Yeah, I'm cool. You and Cam need to talk it out before this daily." And it didn't go the way that Leroy planned it to go. And he was like saying that both of them were making valid points in how they were feeling and what happened. However, they're both just missing everything between one another about getting each other's sides. And that's where the communication between that is like really breaking down. Because literally, Kara is right. Like, I'm trying to protect myself and my star. I'm not gonna fall on his word for that. Cam, on the other hand, was like, I just want you to support me as a friend. Not in the game. I'm not like coming for you. I just want you to support me in my decisions. If there's anything else that we got to deal with, we'll deal with. But in that moment, when she kept saying, "I just want you to support me and have my back," that's all it was.
Yeah, I feel like everyone is, again, this is very personal when it comes to this game, and it should not be. And I feel like both sides have a point. I think Leroy is correct in his assessment and just like, listen, either we're gonna talk about it and then we're gonna leave it alone at that. Because if you can't come to an agreement, it is what it is on that point. I think that obviously, like you said, Cam had solid points in what how she was feeling, and so did Cara. But it's funny that Cara felt the way that Cam was feeling towards Brandon and towards Jasmine, and then Cam is feeling that way. It's just like a cycle that they don't see. What I didn't like was Cara trying to initiate the conversation and being like, I'll talk to her. Walked in, walked in with love. As the therapist will tell you, you step in with love. Hey, Queen, let's talk. And then as soon as she started talking, she's like, oh, like rolling her eyes and do it and just getting upset. And it's just like, you can't do that. Like, you either have to accept what the person is saying or then just not have the conversation. Like, you can't just have an attitude off of just why her reasoning is her reasoning. That's just like pissed me off, like with the whole situation in general, because they're not hearing each other. And I just think it's a lack of not wanting to hear each other. Like, everyone wants to be right and no one wants to be in the middle or have some kind of compromise. And I think, again, here we go with Brandon. You haven't spoken to me with 8 years. He listed his whole Wikipedia like we even asked him anything. This brother said he got 2 kids. He got married. He almost died. His pops died. He's been back to block with his wife. Oh no, my bad. I got a divorce. Then it's just like, nigga, please, like, talk to her on your own time. Like, this is why I was like kind of just off the fence of Brandon this season, because he always does some shit like this, bro. And it's just like, why are you wanting the why do you want the respect for her so bad to like that you're doing all this pushing, like you peddling yourself to her, and you keep bringing up 8 years, 8 years, 8 years, and I get it, like, shit happens. Cara, her excuse was half-assed. I don't talk to anybody. Cool, do your thing. But I think that Brandon and Cara situation needed to happen on Brandon and Cara time. And what I didn't realize is that Leroy and Cam know Brandon outside of the house, and I think they spent time with each other, like they lived with each other type vibes, like not as when there was a couple, but I think Leroy and Brandon, you know, were living together at one point, like when Leroy was in Vegas. So it's kind of like I'm missing context clues until I have to get it online, which I hate. But so that's probably why like they have like that close connection in the house that I was kind of missing, because it did not click to me. I was like, I guess everybody black is linking up this season. Cool, I'm with it. But I just was like, no one gave me a backstory. So like now that I kind of have a little bit of context, it makes sense. But again, Brandon, leave the conversation for Carver on your own time. Like, I didn't need the whole shebang bang about your whole life in that past 8 years. Like, and and like he tried to make it her feel bad, and she's just like, yeah, but I don't talk to anybody. And it's like, oh, Okay. Well, thanks, sis.
It was very
Like,
weird.
come on, bro.
Like
Come on.
he didn't help that conversation at all. He wasn't needed for that conversation. This was an A, B, and C conversation. He can drag himself out of that room and wait another time, but he could not because everybody just had to be in there for that conversation. But when she said like I was talking about it, that's not true. You talk to some people. You're not that recluse. You talk to people. You just don't talk to them on your like when you want to. And it's 8 years. Like over time, you if you know somebody you want to like reach out, reach out. Don't wait until you get on the show. Like I've known this man for 8 years. We've been cool, and you use that against him. It goes both ways. Just like last week you said, it goes both ways. He could have reached out. Car over these years could have reached out and not used that history that they have as a really reasoning for like why she's like, oh, Brandon's like backstab me. You better talk to that man too. So that whole thing, I'm like, okay, y'all are all twisted and y'all try to let it be and just figure things out later on. So we get to the daily challenge. And the daily challenge is actually a former challenge from the Duel 2. And once it was like, oh, I didn't okay, honestly, I didn't watch Duel 2, which I have to go back and watch it. But this daily was actually really cool. I liked the concept of it. It was called Bobblehead Bobsled, where it's played in teams of either 5 or 4, and the teams must run uphill with bobbleheads on them already. And then go down to the bobsled track and ride down the hill to be able to go all the way down and shut the water valve and also still be able to retain water in their valve and cut it at a certain time. The teams could also collect bags of water to replenish their cylinders as they go down the hill, and the team with the most water in their cylinder relative to their time wins. The two teams with the least form of water in slowest time will lose. I like the concept of it. Some people have really good strategies. Other people, Brad, we're just not thinking.
Which is always the case with Brad. I'm not sure what is going on up there because he never seems to have a plan. He never seems to have a strategy. It always comes down to, is it something physical? Because he may have a chance. Like, that's what I'm noticing with Brad as he's back in the house and back on these shows for the last couple of seasons. It's like, if it's not physical, Brad be lost in the sauce. And especially if it's on a team, double that. Like, it's 10 times worse yet once he be on a team with somebody, because at this point, Leroy needed to get a win. Everyone's like, yeah, we're all in it together. He go down first. I don't know what he was on. Grabbing things, losing things, and to the point where everyone keeps yelling at him once they get off of the cylinders. And he's just like, yeah, sorry guys, I don't know what. Nicole was like, what the fuck are you doing? Leroy's like, yo, man, what you doing? Everyone's on his ass. Jasmine was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even get anything. Everyone is on his ass, rightfully so, though, which is like, I appreciate it, because like he really needs to understand the severity of what you're doing. Like, it's not just your game. If you want to play on your own time, cool, but stop wasting other people's time. And I think that everyone getting on him kind of made him realize, like, oh shit, I really messed this whole thing up for my team, because it really was all on him, and that cost someone an opportunity in their game having to go into the arena.
Yeah, it was just right throughout the whole time they were on that track. Right when they got down the hill, that man was like either grabbing it, not barely grabbing it. He was just like chugging it, like hitting it, and then it could go. And you can just hear Nicole just yell, Brad, Brad, what are you doing? Like there was nothing that they could do to try and salvage what he did. It was just horrible from the start. I'm like, I don't want to hear Nicole yells Brad's name ever again like that. Cause I'm like, they don't need to be on a team together. Cause she gonna cuss that man out again. Because he really ruined it for her from the jump. I was like, this is not good. Like you literally just like there. No vibes. Just there.
Yeah, that's always seems to be Brad's problem. And I think when we get to the other teams, like people had more of a strategy. Like Cara's team had a strategy. They were like, listen, everyone just keep going down and we'll all get one or three, bags, and then like we'll keep it pushing. So but by the time we get there, we all got it. When we get to Derek and Cam's team, Derek was the champ for that team, the MVP of that team. Like he literally was grabbing everything, putting it in his bosom. I think just the fact that he grabbed it and put it in his shirt. It was like, okay, great. We all have some kind of strategy to execute after we see the disaster that was Brad and that team. And then that team with Laurel, Ryan made me laugh
Child.
so bad because Ryan completely forgot. Like he just thought he had an extra skin, like extra belly, extra fupa, as he said. Like he literally forgot he had a whole water pouch in him until they yelled time. He was like, "Oh shit, I have another one here." And it's like, what's on your stomach, bro? That you now all of a sudden, like, did you eat before this? Why would you think that's the whole fupa? I'm so lost. But just going down the list of the teams, it's like once you see how everyone was just moving along, that's the thing about going first. It's like you're the guinea pig in the situation, and then everyone else can kind of, you know, adjust and kind of, reframe how you did it. So I think that was probably the main thing that Brad did. But I'm I say this once one more time, Veronica, lady, listen, lady, I like you, Veronica, but girl, you needed somebody to push your ass up a hill. Like you needed a reminder. You needed a babysitter essentially to help you. Don't come back. Like stay home. If you need a babysitter, I'm sure you got kids or nieces and nephews that need a babysitter too. Why don't you go stay with them? Because there's no way you coming on this show and saying, "Yo, I need somebody to remind me or help me or be by myself." You need a buddy. It's an individual game. It's not partners. So why do you keep coming back? And I don't want to call her the A word. And
But it's
not, this is not
giving.
rude.
It's
It's
no, it's
giving.
fine.
It's giving heavy A energy. And I'm just like, I don't want her to be that because that is sad. That's going down a path of you don't even want to go there. But Veronica, please, for the life of yourself, you come back one more time and you on some bullshit. I'm gonna politely ask you. I'm gonna at you. I'm gonna politely ask you, stay home, please.
Good job to Tina. Her other half for not only her being gassed, but she made it through. But I'm so sorry. But on Veronica, real quick, her challenge legacy is stamped. I don't like how she's going out right now. I'm like the way she is coming into these games is just for a check and it's giving A, and I don't like that. You are a challenge legend and challenge champion. Act like it. That's all I'm gonna say about that lady. Cause ain't no way you going out like this. Ain't no way. I can't. Um, but while the red team was going, and they were in the middle of the pack. To be honest, at the end of it, but when they were going, Brando was like, it took them 11 days to get their water and put it in. I was like, listen, this is I feel like because like he was like Cara and them were doing a lot, and it's taking a long time. Which they really were doing a lot. It was their time was actually the longest. So I'm actually kind of surprised that they were not in the bottle. But then again, it had to do with the water in the valve that really helped them get in the middle. But I was like, they took the longest to get that done. And I think,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, they definitely were overthinking the strategy, but it was a good strategy. Just they needed to go faster. That was that was just the whole thing. If they would have went faster, then it probably would have worked out a little bit better for them. But at least they didn't lose.
yeah. Um, I will say props to Flora for also flying when the blue team did have their time, because they had some of a strategy as well. But Flora just flying down that hill, and I was like, I had to laugh. So like, everybody is just going down, grabbing it, and you just see Flora being the last person going down, just flying. I was like, okay, I'm just here. Like everybody else taking doing the heavy work. I'm just flying down. I'll help at the end. So,
I mean, at least she was
uh,
there.
yeah, because I still forget that Ace is there and he's just moving along. So the orange team ended up winning, and that consisted of Cam, Keefla, Derek, Steve, and Tina, with a time of 2 minutes and 56 seconds. They had the fastest time, and they were able to have all their water mostly in the valve. So big props to them. Like you said, props to Derek for kind of being the MVP of that team and really pulling it home for them, because they had a good strategy as well with having the guys go first, grab the water in the bags, and then they all like at the end of it just get it all in. So props to that team for winning. Um, that they really did their big one on that.
Yeah, I mean, Cam, she needed a win, and somehow she stayed in the back, got the win, and had Derek, well, she didn't have Derek, but Derek was able to pull through, and this is the second time winning in a week. And Keefla also mentioned, like, Derek is not someone to kind of play with in these challenges and situations, which I like because it seems like Derek is coasting, but he's also there. Like he's around, So shout out to him for getting it done. And then obviously Cam is like, listen, I gotta start politicking heavy now because my man is probably, if he's not in the losing group, like his name could come up. So that's where we get the whole situation now moving forward.
Yes. And our losers are the light blue team, which was Jasmine, Leroy, Nicole, and Brad, with dark blue team, Brandon, Flora, Laurel, Ryan, and Avery. I forgot Avery was here, not gonna lie, until I saw her stand next to Brandon. So she's just also someone who had a star initially, lost it, now it's just there. So yeah. And the middle team is the red team. And who's on the red team? Cara Maria. And she's gonna get her comeuppance and vote in Brandon Leroy.
Yeah, I mean, this clearly was the whole plot of the episode when they kept bringing it up about Kara and her revenge coming back into the house after being voted in. But, you know, I think it's kind of like people were making it like, okay, let's just vote Brandon Leroy in because it's like tough competition or whatever. But I just think that everyone was just like, let's just kind of break up Cam and Leroy. Like, no shade. I know Ayana said what she had said, and it kind of was like, well, everyone doesn't feel like that, but I really truly feel like people were like, this couple specifically, especially with Cam, they don't really need to be linked up together or like have some kind of power over us in the house moving forward. So I think it was just an easy target for Brandon and Leroy, although Brad should have been in there. I'm just saying. Like it was listen, if we talking about what actually happened on the challenge and not just the politics of the situation, I 100% think that Brad should have been in that elimination.
No, definitely, because he was Horde. If it was up to the everybody else in his team, he would have been the one to go in. But because of the storyline and how Kara is now gunning for Brandon, and now by product of Leroy, I'm like, Leroy didn't do nothing. I get it, you're going at camp. Leroy didn't do nothing. He's trying to help the situation. And I'm like, it is what it is. He just got to be the stray to get the cam. And I was like, I respect the game move on Kara's part, but everybody else, like you said, has been wanting to split of Cam and Leroy. It's just a matter of time until you do that. But it is what it is at this point with the votes. Like it, depending on situations, you're gonna go in. If you just there, you just there, and that's how Brad just got an easy out because they're focused mainly on Brandon and Leroy. Which I still like. Brad should have been in there because that man, nothing in the head. I don't think he would have been able to finish that elimination either. Not gonna hold you.
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying that Brad is one of the stronger competitors, but like I said, I think it's just physical, to be honest. Like, I mean, it don't really give like he can really do much or take it there. And I think that the last couple of times that he got to the final on the All-Star show was like, yeah, kind of people. Like, yes, I love yes. Of course, love Darrell, but Darrell can be touch and go. So it's just like I get why he made it that far onto, the season, but Brad just gives absolutely bricks.
Yeah. That beer still gotta go. It's still horrid as well. Um, we did get to the red team's nomination. Obviously, the vote was over Emily, Brandon, and Leroy. Jay was like, "I'm not voting for Brandon. That's my guy. I'm voting for Ryan." But it is what it is. The vote ended up being Brandon Leroy. Also, Brandon knew he was gonna go in, and when he was talking to his daughter on FaceTime, he told us that he told them that he was in Wakanda for work, and I'm like, all right, I it was funny. It was a cute little moment, but you haven't been on here to be a superhero.
Yeah, all right. Well, okay. Yeah, okay. That's what I have to say about that. Okay. Like stop it. Cut it out. Like cut it out, black people. For real, cut it out.
Wakanda, we haven't been in Wakanda ever, ever. That's
There is no
fictional.
Wakanda. There is the problem is there is no Wakanda. Stop trying to feed fairy tales and bullshit. There's no black mermaids, there's no Wakanda. Like please cut the shit. I,
So, anyways, we get to the arena, and the guys are playing Mission Improbable, not impossible, improbable. Where they'll be suspended above two mazes and have to maneuver balls into holes at the center of the maze. The description of this is very a little off, but it's very straightforward. And the first person to land five balls into the holes will win this elimination. And Kifla and that's a star holder, I forget now. Um, they were like, we're not doing it, we're cool. Derek had an option to also go in. Oh, Kifla and Steve, they both were like, we're not doing this. Derek had an option to go in. He was like, no, I'm good. Because last time I was in the nation, Brandon sent me home. I'm good. I won't, as much as I want my star, I'm not going against that man. Y'all got it. I was like, I respect the self awareness. Because, like, he was like, I'm not winning against that man. Y'all got it.
I mean, that's always a gamble. So I'm glad that Tarek knew, and especially going against Brandon, he was like, "Nah, never mind. Like you got it, Chief."
Yeah. And so Brandon did get off to a hot start with getting at least three balls on the holes immediately. And it just took Leroy a little bit longer to kind of get at a pace, but he eventually, like Cam told him, to just focus and take his time, use that to his advantage, and just took his time, made a comeback, and tied it up at three. And then it's just back and forth until somebody got all five balls. And that somebody was Leroy. He managed to come back and beat Brandon and got the win. Because Brandon was struggling back throughout this whole thing. Like, as much as like he was doing well with the hot start, the weight of everything on him was like making him struggle a bit, and that was a bit off, but it was so close because like he could have almost gotten it, but Leroy managed to get his way up and win.
I was surprised, honestly, that Leroy figured it out because he was struggling so much in the beginning and Brandon seemed to be hitting a stride. So when Leroy ended up getting that fifth one, it was like, damn, like I'm happy that he did because obviously I'm still rooting for Cam and Leroy. But I was like, you know what? At least he needs to get something because he keeps losing. He's always in a losing group. Loser, 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 Leroy. Like that's just all he gets. So it's just like at least you get something, bro, to kind of help your morale a little bit and boost your spirits up going into the situation. Because at the end of the day, Cam or not, like you're there for a reason. So you got to figure shit out. And I mean, sucks to be Brandon, but this is Brandon's MO. Brandon is known to be fourth and one. Get it out of here. Like he's not going to get to a final, even if he tries. Like, I'm sorry, but he even came back, try to have a different strategy. Oh, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna get the strong people out. I'm not gonna say that person. I'm da da da. Da. All that went out the window. Okay. So it is what it is. Like, that's just I don't feel bad because whatever, but like that's just what Brandon gives. Like that's just who he always has been in the show, which kind of sucks because I want him to change that narrative for himself. But I mean, he was put in a situation, and then this is just how it ended for him. So yeah,
Kara's karma really came back and bit him. So that's on Reddit. But if we were winning this nation, he gets to take a star. And TJ was like joking, like, oh, you can take anybody's star, man or woman, if you take a woman's star, and give it to somebody that you may have a relationship with in the house, i.e. Kim. He's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna let the girls do what they do. Kim can get her own star on her own time because she can do it. He's like, I'm just gonna take Adam's star because overall it's least consequence and it is what it is with Adam because there's no bad blood. It's like easiest one that I can really take is Adam. So took Adam's star. Adam's like, well, I might be able to get it again at one point. We'll see. But now Leroy is a star holder, along with Veronica, Cara, Keefla, Steve, and one more person, I forget. One more woman. But yeah.
it's Jasmine, Cara, Veronica, Steve, Keefla, and now Leroy.
Leroy. Yeah. I
So
forgot about Jasmine.
yeah. So I mean, good for Leroy to being like, listen, Cam, you got to get your own. Like, we here together, but you got to get your own, sis. Like, I can't do that for you. I respect it because that's what it needs to be at the end of the day. We don't need to be giving people handouts essentially. And so I mean, shout out to Leroy for getting his star. It's gonna be very dicey because there's still a lot of people left, there's still a lot of gameplay left. And so he's gonna have to work really hard to hold on to that star. But hopefully this can give him a little bit more of a morale going further on the daily challenges to kind of help him be like, yo, I cannot lose because I have a star. Like it's always like I can't lose because I can't lose. It's like, nah, brother, now you really can't lose because now you will be in jeopardy. So tighten up is what that kind of is giving Leroy, which I like because I like focused and locked in Leroy.
Yeah, and Cara was like, "Oh, my star is not taken once again." She's the only person whose star hasn't been taken since we first started the season. So, props, Cara is still keeping it. It would have been funny if he did take Cara's star and give it to Cam, but that would have made a bit bigger wedge between Cam and Cara. But Cara still holds on to her star. I'm like, it would have been funny if that happened, but I feel like if he took a woman's star, it would have been Veronica's because I still remember the North remembers when Veronica did the burn vote on Leroy, and that man ended up in the nation. And I think he went home that episode too on 30/30. So that would have been funny. But with that, that is the end of the recap of the episode. Every episode, there's always music that we enjoy. And this week, I have two songs. Alicia has two songs. The songs that I have are the Blue Cantrell, Hit 'em a Style song because that's a classic, that's a vibe. I really enjoyed it at the top of the episode. Really good to bring it in. And then I also had En Vogue's Hold On because that is also a jam. And it was just funny how when they picked that song in the episode, it was like, hold on, something's brewing.
Yeah, I think it was just a lot of R&B on this week's playlist. Like it from the start all the way to the finish had a little bit of rock here and there, but for the most part, like the soundtrack was giving very much 90s R&B. I don't know who was the music supervisor for this episode, but they were like, "Listen, we're going to turn Now That's My Jam 27 on and we just going to go down the playlist of whatever is on there," which I can appreciate because we all know that commercial late at night when you was watching BET and you was up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you heard Tyrese yelling that damn song. Listen, I get it. It's good music still. So I can appreciate it. I did like when the toxic situation of Laurel and Nicole, but they kept playing like the perfect songs and they played High Five. She's playing Hard to Get. I love High Five in that group. That's just a throwback song in general. Like I said, whoever was doing the music this week was on the nose. And then they also played Maya, Case of the X. I love Maya Down. Maya is one of my favorites from that era. So I always thought that was just funny though, that how they kind of picked those songs. Like I said, this week they kind of was just like, yo, turn on MTV Jams and let's just pick something from here.
And it all worked out. All worked out. But that's
Yeah.
really it.
Yeah. I'm also gonna throw in a bonus of Sade because they did play Sade too, Sweetest Taboo. And I was like, y'all really in y'all bag this episode. I appreciate it. But that's what we like about All Stars. We like the good music. We like the old folks coming back. Not old folks to say, not trying to be rude, but older cast that we haven't seen in a while. So I really like this episode. I thought it was a solid episode, and this season is turning out good so far. Just hope it continues on. We're not gonna talk about other seasons, but let's hold on to this, y'all. Hold on. You gotta hold on to what we got right now because it's gonna be very meek coming up. So, yikes.
I
Yeah.
will say I really want for the background players in this game to make something shake. I know for sure Ace is not. I just know at one point when it's his time to go, he's gonna really try and pop off because he did that before on All Stars, where like he felt a little bit taken aback. But at one point, I need Ace to really show up and not just be in the background. And I want Derek to get another win. That's what I'm feeling right now.
I just think the edit is wrong on a lot of these people. Like, not saying wrong in a bad way, but I just think that they're not getting a good edit. So it's like they're not. It seems like they're not there, but they are there. So we keep forgetting people every single week, but no, they're still there. They're just not being edited into the storyline that they're telling. So I'm a shoot Ace some bail. I'm gonna shoot a couple people some bail because they probably not giving the camera time what they need to. Like they just there. I can't be mad at that, but. Thank you guys for listening. If you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can at Dual Lines Pod. You can follow Megan at Makes and Hines. You can follow myself at Ace_S5. And if you're listening to this, you can watch this on YouTube at Dual Lines Podcast. You can like, comment, subscribe, whatever, get the algorithms rhythming. And yeah, we'll be back next week to talk more of the challenge All Stars 4. See you guys.
Bye. And also, happy birthday to Alicia because her birthday was the day of this week's episode.
Thank you. Happy May Day and Taurus season to all my Taurus flowers out there.
Yeah. All right. Catch y'all later.